Let's talk about what makes you anxious. And more importantly, let's talk about the conversation in your mind that is making you anxious. Let's face it, your mind is talking to you right now. It never stops. 96% of adults report constant internal chatter. It's just what our minds do. Like right now, you're probably saying, oh, another therapist talking about anxiety, but
I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool
therapist. But if you're struggling with anxiety, you know this voice intimately. It is the one that whispers, what if at 3 o'clock in the morning? It's the one that is going to rehearse disasters that never actually happen and are extremely unlikely to happen. In this video, I'm going to give you 3 little ideas that you can start utilizing today to help you with your self-talk so that you can start changing your relationship with anxiety. Here's what I've learned after 10 years of studying anxiety and helping people here in my private practice in Los Angeles as a therapist. The problem isn't necessarily that voice. The problem is what we do when we hear it. Let me explain that to you through the anxiety paradox, or what I call the boomerang effect. This is one of the 10 rules of anxiety that says what you resist persists. And it's not just a clever phrase, it's actually psychology in action. So let me show you what gives me the most anxiety. I literally have nightmares about this. For me, it's every time I think of heights. My heart starts racing, I get sweaty palms, my breath gets more shallow. My instinct is immediately to fight it. And this is common for most people with anxiety. It's like a fire that we absolutely have to put out. Our instinct is always to push it away. We tell ourselves to stop thinking about it, get over it, move on, look on the bright side. Another way that we try and do this is by scrolling on social media, snacking, drinking, overworking. We all have our go-to numbing agents designed to quiet this voice, but it just doesn't work. And the more you try not to think about something, the more your brain latches onto it. That is the boomerang effect. This is actually a studied psychological phenomenon that I'm going to call the pink bear effect. It's all about thought suppression. And it's a very specific cognitive strategy that we have. Whenever we try to exert a very deliberate and intentional effort to prevent unwanted thoughts or feelings from entering into our minds, we're engaging this strategy. It's distinguished from the psychoanalytic concept of repression, which is more of an unconscious defense mechanism. So the difference is that we try not to think about something specific and deliberately try and get it out of our heads. The motivation behind all of this thought suppression is to do with emotional regulation. We attempt to suppress thoughts, to get rid of the thoughts, because the thoughts themselves trigger unpleasant emotions like anxiety or sadness or guilt. The pink bear effect comes from this fascinating study in which participants were told not to think about pink bears for 5 minutes. And apparently we needed to do a study to find out that most participants found that they were actually thinking about pink bears more than once a minute on average compared to people who weren't given the same instructions. So the study just proved that trying not to think about something makes it harder to get out of your head. Why does this happen? Well, it's something called the ironic process theory, which I think would sound so much better if it was called the Alanis Morissette effect, because it's like or a black fly in your Chardonnay. The ironic process theory posits that any attempt to exert intentional control over a mental state or a thought, like don't think of pink bears, initiates 2 different cognitive processes that operate at the same time. The first process is intentional operating process. This is you saying don't think of pink bears. It's the part of your brain that is actively, consistently trying not to think about something. At the same time though, there's another part of your brain, the Alanis Morissette part of your brain, that is automatically and unconsciously occurring at the same time. It's scanning the contents of your thoughts for signs of the thing that you're trying to control. So it's monitoring for the absence of unwanted thoughts. But in order to know what the thought is that you don't want to think about, it actually has to hold it in mind. So it's part of you saying, attention shoppers, there are no pink bears in the store. Better not be thinking about a pink bear. No pink bears, everyone. Okay, guys, just making sure we're not thinking about pink bears, right? Are you thinking about pink bear? I think that's a pink bear. I would just like to remind you that we are not thinking about pink bears right now. And it's called the ironic thought process because in order for you not to think about pink bears, another part of your brain that lies in the unconscious realm actually has to think about a pink bear all the time to make sure that you're not thinking about them with the other part of your brain. What's even more interesting for me as a therapist, though, is that these ironic effects are not limited to thoughts like pink bears or white elephants. We actually see similar paradoxical outcomes when we observe people's attempts to suppress feelings Trying not to feel sad can actually create more sadness in someone. Even trying not to think about how much pain you're in has actually been shown to increase pain perception over time. So it makes sense then that suppressing anxious thoughts can actually lead to an increase in self-reported anxiety and intrusive thoughts. That's great, Oliver, but what do we do about this? This is where I want to introduce you to a totally different mindset. One that is not all about banishing anxiety, but by getting curious about it. I will often ask clients, what if anxiety isn't this enemy that we had to defeat, but what if it's just a signal that you have to interpret or understand or get to know? Now, you don't have to agree with anxiety, you don't have to like anxiety, but you do kind of have to talk to it differently than you are right now. And you definitely have to stop fighting it. What most people find is that when you stop resisting anxiety and start turning towards it, you remove the fuel that's been keeping its vengeance strategy of keeping you awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. So your mission, if you choose to accept it, is trying to turn towards your anxiety instead of away from it. And we're going to do that with a couple of different strategies. One of them is actively generating a competing emotion or a new attitude by actively generating a more positive meaning or a competing emotion. And this isn't about reasoning. It's more about activating other feelings that express a competing viewpoint. It's called cognitive reappraisal. So instead of saying, I'm anxious about this presentation, you can literally reframe it as, I'm really excited about this presentation. As I say this, I'm aware that it doesn't sound very engaging, but it's not positive thinking, it's not denial. It's actually more sophisticated of a technique that targets the interpretation stage of emotion generation. So your prefrontal cortex can actually influence your emotional state by changing how you're interpreting your body's signals. So the physiological experience of anxiety, racing heart, sweaty palms, butterflies in your stomach, is nearly identical to excitement. The main difference is the story that we tell ourselves about what is happening. When you're fighting anxiety, you're simultaneously monitoring for threats, criticizing yourself for feeling anxious, trying to suppress the feeling, trying to ignore it, attempting to focus on whatever it is that you're actually trying to do. And it's no wonder that anxious people often feel mentally exhausted or struggle with concentration. There's so much going on already. By dropping that internal fight, by accepting that anxiety is present without trying to immediately eliminate it, you actually free up more of your cognitive resources. And then you've got more of your mental capacity for the task at hand. So acceptance isn't giving up, it's actually more of a strategic resource allocation. So how do we actually do this though? Well, this is where your self-talk toolkit becomes crucial. You need a couple of different new voices in your head. First of all, you need the cheerleader, your motivational pep talker.
Awesome! Oh wow! Like totally freaked me out.
Mine looks uncannily like Kirsten Dunst from Bring It On. This is the voice that doesn't try and convince you that you're not anxious or tell you that everything will be okay. Instead, it says things like, you've got this, or you've gotten through this before, or it's okay to feel this way. It's more about willingness and self-compassion, not denial. It's your cheerleader. And the second is your coach. Mine's Ted Lasso.
Hey, but taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse, isn't it?
This is the voice that gives you clear, simple directives. Focus on your breath. Take the next step. Look at the person in front of you. You've done this before. During moments of high anxiety when your cognitive load is maxed out, you need these simple, actionable commands from these two new characters in your head. What we don't want is that critical inner voice you installed somewhere in middle school that's telling you not to mess up or that you have to be perfect. Now, some people can take this even further with what I call the ninja self-talk. So you can externalize your anxiety and talk to it directly. For some reason, for me, my anxiety is always this blue demon who is a total,
no one is going to watch this video. Why do you even bother?
oh yeah, anxiety? Is that all you've got? Good one. What else? It sounds strange, but it's powerful because it positions you as being separate from your anxiety. You're not anxious, you're experiencing anxiety over there. You're also doing the opposite of what anxiety expects. By wishing for the feared outcome or inviting anxiety to tell you even worse stories, you're competing with the disorder and you are getting control of it. But none of these little techniques will sustain you unless you connect to your why. These skills are all aimed at increasing your tolerance to distress and anxiety. But it's not a skill you can maintain in a vacuum. You need a reason to willingly engage with all of this discomfort and create these voices and argue with your anxiety. So what is on the other side of your anxiety? What kind of life are you striving for? Maybe it's the ability to get in a car and drive again. Maybe it's trusting someone enough to be in a relationship. Maybe it's as simple as uploading a YouTube video or applying for a new job. When you connect to what really matters to you, your values, your dreams, the life you want to live, anxiety becomes just another obstacle between you and what you really care about. It's still uncomfortable. It's still a bit of a struggle, but anxiety isn't in charge. You are. And that is one massive shift that you can take in your self-talk to overcome anxiety. If you found this at all helpful, please share it with someone you know. I'm on a mission to try and help people with anxiety. You can find out more about the rules of anxiety by taking my free anxiety quiz. Totally free, it only takes a few minutes. You get a mini course on anxiety from me, as well as a detailed breakdown of your anxiety patterns. If you're in Los Angeles and struggling with anxiety, let me know. We'd love to help you. In this video, I'm going to give you 3 little ideas that you can start utilizing today to help you with your self-talk so that you can start changing your relationship with anxiety. So there's 3 parts to this. I want you to focus on your cheerleader. What do they sound like? What do they say? How motivational are they? If you can't think of someone, pick someone from a movie that you like. Who's your coach? Was it someone from high school? Was it a real person? Is it Ted Lasso? It can be whoever you want. Install them in your brain. Imagine them. Make them real. They are your backing singers. They're your new anti-anxiety team. And the third thing you can do is start visualizing your anxiety. Once you can start imagining it, then you can start talking back to it. And I can get very sassy with my anxiety demon and really put him in his place. So if you like where this is going, hit follow and subscribe. I'd love to share more about anxiety with you.